In all the previous video, I was discussing about the water governance and water law, which is the fourth module. Now we will move on to the fifth module, which is watershed management. Okay. Before we understand the watershed management, we would like to understand what is this watershed is. Okay. So in the first module itself, I had discussed about what is catchment area and watershed. Okay. So both are same basically, but I will tell you how the watershed and catchment area has been classified in India. Okay, we will go in detail with respect to that later. Okay, but before that we would like to briefly understand what is this watershed itself. Okay, so to explain you what is watershed, I have this simple example of wash basin which is available at your home also. Now you can see the wash basin that is there in the figure, and you can see the edge of the wash basin. Okay, the maximum boundary the wash basin can carry. But if you see anywhere inside the wash basin, the water that drops anywhere in the wash basin will flow towards the sink itself. Okay, this is basically what the characteristic of a basin is. So the water that drops anywhere within the ridge line or the topmost line. Okay, if the water drops anywhere within the ridge line, the water flows towards sinks. If the water drop flows outside the ridge line, the water will not come within the sink. Okay, this is what basically the wash basin is. Now this wash basin is basically the man-made, so that's why it is a regular shape. Such kind of wash basins exist in nature. Okay, so you can see the picture above the wash basin. That is what the natural condition is. It's actually the picture that is drawn, but in real we will have such kind of basins. Okay, so what happens in a wash basin is there is an area, okay, that is covered. Okay, if you drop water anywhere within that area, the water will flow towards the sink. So I told you such kind of similar basins exist in our nature also, in our environment also. Okay, so what happens, there is a ridge line that is existing for any given watershed or catchment. So the water that drops anywhere within that area, within that ridge line, the water will flow towards the sink. Okay, now you can see how the formation of the watershed happens. Okay, basically there is a ridge line, and that ridge line is defined by several mountainous ranges, or it can be also some of the hill. Okay, now through those hills several streams will flow, and there is a representation of the stream orders. Okay, what happens is first we will have first order stream order. All those first order stream order will flow towards another stream which is carrying two or more first order streams, and all those water that is collected in first order and second order stream will be flown into third order stream. Like this we can create the orders in which the streams are connected. Okay, and all those streams will connect water towards the river. Okay, then the major river is formed, and you can see that the tip or the end of the river will be called as sink, because that is the point where the water from the rest of the area of the watershed is collected and it is being diverted in the direction of gravity again. Okay, so this is what basically watershed is. Now we will come to the point which is called as watershed management. What is watershed management? Okay, now you can see in the figure they have mentioned some of the structures. Okay, that structures might seem to you quite new, but you have seen this. Some of the structures you might have seen in your real life also. Like for example, earthen bud, for example, check dams, gabions. These all structures you might have seen, but you have not observed it carefully. Okay. Now what we will do is we will try to understand what are these structures and what is the importance of all these structures in a watershed management. So coming to watershed management, I'll explain you in a simple sentence. Watershed management is to manage water within the watershed. Okay, now what is this this sentence describes? Now basically for human, we have understood the temporal and spatial variation of water. So after understanding that, we know that the rainfall is not going to equally distributed over the entire spatial region, and the rainfall is not going to happen for an entire year. So for that, what we have understood is that we need to store the water when it falls, and we need to store at maximum points as much as possible, so that we can take the benefit of the water when it is in scarce condition or when we have scanty amount of water. Okay, so by understanding this background, we must be able to interpret at what all points we could be able to store the water, or we can, in simple way, we can say that we can intervene with the flow of water. Okay, so we will try to understand the intervention of flow of water. Okay, now let us divide this entire category into three main groups. Okay, so in the three main groups are such. First, we will try to intervene the water in the ridgeline itself. Means the ridgeline means the sloping surface. Okay, like for example, if there is a mountain, there is a hill, the water that drops at the mountain, at the top of the mountain, at the ridge line, will flow in the direction of the slope. Okay, so we would like to check the flow of water. We would like to store as much water as possible, and then once we have worked out all the possibilities of storing or checking the water in the ridge line, then we'll go to drainage line. Means the water which flows in the slope will connect at the valley point. Okay, at the lowest point. Okay, if there are two ridges, two mountainous areas that are connected at the bottom, we call it as valley. So at that valley we call it as drainage line also. So we would like to make as much as possible interventions in the drainage lines also. Okay, now when the water is flowing in the drainage line, it will encounter some of the farmlands also, because there is a huge farmland, and basically the watershed management is not only done for drinking water, it is also done for irrigation purpose. So by understanding this background, we have huge cultivable areas or agricultural areas, so we need to store some amount of water, or we need to make the structures to store as much amount of water in the farmlands also. Okay, now as I'm telling you the storage of water, what is this basic understanding of storage of water? Now again, the storage of water I will divide into three different parts. One is the storage of water on the surface. Okay, it means what? We are trying to store the water on the surface itself. Next is to store water as much as possible in the soil. Okay, within the soil belt where we cultivate the crops, we would like to store water in there. Okay, then the last one is to store water beneath the ground, which is our groundwater resources. We are trying to recharge the groundwater resources. So we have understood basically there are three type of interventions or the methods in which we will try to stop the water from flowing, and there are three ways which we could be able to store the water. Okay, so in this module we are going to understand in detail how these interventions will happen, how the storage will enhance. Okay, now going to the description of watershed, I gave already the basic description of watershed. There are some of the advantages of our watershed management. What are those advantages? First is that we will reduce the soil erosion, because at these several points we are trying to reduce the velocity of the flow. By reducing the velocity of flow, definitely I am trying to reduce the soil that is carried from the riparian valleys. Okay, now the next one is the silt is trapped at regular intervals. It means we have a huge crisis of silt getting deposited at our reservoirs, at our huge reservoirs. Like for example, any of the reservoir life is defined by the silt storage at its water pounding area. So if we eliminate that storage of silt or silting of silt, we could enhance the life of our reservoir also. So by making watershed management, we are also trying to reduce the silt deposition in our reservoirs. Okay, that is the next benefit. Next is the groundwater increase. So basically after all these interventions, we are going to increase the groundwater also. Next is the life of the reservoirs and rivers will get improved or will get prolonged. Okay, the last one is the improve in the soil moisture condition. Okay, so these are the advantages of having the watershed. Next is going with the classification that is done in India with respect to watershed. Okay, you can see there is a small chart that I am showing. So in that chart you could be able to understand the categories in which these watersheds are defined. Okay, the basic understanding of basin remains same, but we will try to understand what is catchment and watersheds. Okay, now you can say with respect to the area, this entire watershed is defined. Okay, now for example, if the area is from 2500 to 1 lakh hectares, we call it as regions. Okay, if the area is between 3000 to 25,000, we call it as basins. Like for example, Krishna basin, Kaveri basin and Ganga basin, all these are basins. Okay, any given region will be considered as basin. We basically also call it as a river basin. Okay, next is catchment area. So within these basins we have divided the area into several tributaries. So these tributaries will have its own area of catching the water. We call it as catchments. Okay, so the area will be up to 1000 to 3000 hectares. Next one is subcatchments. Its area ranges from 200 to 1000 hectares. Next, coming to watersheds. Okay, watershed is the smallest part of the subcatchments. So its area will vary from 50 to 200 hectares. Okay, next is similarly we have subcatchments, milli watersheds, micro watersheds. So based on the area we could be able to classify all of this, but in general we can say all the terms, like for example catchment, watershed or basin, are similar in nature, because within that area the water will be carried to the sink point. Okay, so that's what watershed is. Now we will look into some of the techniques of watershed management. The watershed managements are done with three categories. One is in the ridge line, the drainage line and the foreign land. Okay, so now we would like to discuss in brief about some of the watershed techniques that are done. Okay, later we will get into the different type of structures that are available. Before that we will try to understand basically how these watershed techniques are implemented in these three categories that I explained earlier. Okay, now going with watershed techniques in micro catchment area, the first would be interventions in the ridge area. Ridge area, as I explained you, it is basically the slope from the ridge line. Okay, the water that is that drops on the sloping area of the ridge lines will flow towards the drainage line. So we would like to encounter the water that is flowing on the ridge line, and we would like to store the water, or we will try to intervene it as much as possible. Basically the storage of water on the ridge line becomes quite difficult. Okay, but we will try to understand what are the categories in which we will store the water, and we will also understand how the interventions are made. Now let us look into this interventions of ridge area. Now basically there are four categories in which we could be able to intervene the water that is flowing on the ridge line. The first one is by planting the shrubs, trees, grasses and all of those things. Okay, now when such kind of protection can be done, basically we know that the plants hold the water that is flowing, right? So when the slope, in the image also you can see the slope. When the slope is 25%, okay, so you know how to calculate the slope. Slope is the opposite divided by the adjacent. Okay, we can also call it as rise divided by the run. Okay, basically that is what we call. Okay, rise divided by run will give you the percentage of the slope. So if the percentage of slope is greater than or equivalent to 25%, there we would like to plant trees, shrubs and grasses, which will try to intervene the flow of water, which will try to reduce the flow of water, and it will extract the water that is flowing on the top. Okay, now you try to understand, in most of the forest areas this is what the basic mode in which the water is being intervened. Okay, now where the water will get recharged, basically because of the plants and grasses, the soil will extract the water that is flowing on the surface, and then there can be recharge in the groundwater, and there can be the flow of water in the subsurface also. Okay, these are the two areas where the water is getting stored or the water is flowing. Okay, now when the slope gets reduced to 15% or less than 25%, when the slope is between 15 to 25%, there we would like to adopt counter trenching, or we will get into the detail of counter trenching, how the counter trenching is done. So basically on the contour lines, along the contour lines, several trenches are made. So by making such kind of interventions, we can reduce the flow of water, we can reduce the velocity with which the water is flowing, and to some extent we could be able to even store the water. Okay, and it will recharge the groundwater also. Okay, next is earth counter bunding. Basically the earth bunds are constructed along the counter of the ridge line in order to store the water. Earlier in trench we used to dig the trenches, and the water is to fall into those trenches. In this case we are going to construct the bund to stop the flowing of water. Okay, and the condition in which both the earthen counters, bunds and counter trenches are adopted will be discussed in detail later. Okay, next the last one is the plantation of trees or on barren patches of forest areas where the crown cover is less than 40%. Okay, like this is how we would try to intervene the flow of water on the ridge area or the ridge lines. Okay, next, now let us look into some of the interventions of drainage line. I told you already what is drainage line is. Basically the valley line is called as a drainage line because along the valley line itself the water starts flowing. There are several number of stream orders. With respect to the stream orders, you could be able to identify what is the slope of the different streams. Okay, now again going back to the condition of intervention is basically done on the basis of slope itself. Like you can see, if the slope is greater than 20%, what we would like to do is we would try to intervene with some of the brushwoods checks, and we will try to keep some of the raw materials across the flow of water, and by that we could be able to only reduce the velocity. We could not be able to recharge the groundwater, or we could not be able to even increase the subsurface flow. So here that is what the basic thing is done to reduce the velocity, that's all. Okay, next is when the bed slope is between 5 to 20%, we would like to go with the loose boulder checks, or we could even go for boulder cum earth checks. Okay, so you might have seen in some areas where the small streams are being obstructed by the heap of boulders. The boulders are kept across the stream, and by making that we could be able to reduce the velocity, and we could be able to recharge the groundwater to some extent. Okay, so this is what the intervention that is done on drainage line if the slope is between 5 to 20%. If the slope is less than 5%, then we can understand that the capacity of storage is also more. As the slope gets reduced, we can store more amount of water. So we already know the earthen dam. Earthen dam is the basic intervention of such kind of drainage line. Okay, when the slope is between 5%. Okay, there are another two methods of intervening the flow of water in a drainage line. The next thing is to improve the embankments. Okay, you might have seen several rivers are getting eroded away because of the huge velocity of the flow. So in such cases what we could do is that we can widen the rivers, and we can also even deepen the rivers. By making that, we are increasing the area of the flow. By increasing the area of the flow, we can also reduce the velocity of the flow. By reducing the velocity flow, we all know that it could be able to even recharge the groundwaters, and it can even enhance the subsurface flow of water. Okay, so this is what basically the second thing is. Okay, next is when the groundwater harvesting wells are located alongside. So I'll show you in detail what is this groundwater harvesting technique. They are called as underground dukes. Basically what we do is that across any given stream we would dig a trench in the non-monsoon season. Then the water that is flowing within the subsurface in the rivers, in the bed of the river, we would try to stop that flow of water, and by making that we could be able to recharge our wells, our open wells. I will show you the figure of that when I come to this structure called as underground dukes. Okay, so these are basically the 5 modes in which we could be able to stop the flow of water, to reduce the flow of water in the drainage line. By reducing the flow of water, we can even enhance the groundwater, we can enhance the subsurface flow of water, and at the same time we can improve the soil moisture condition and we are storing the water in the surface. So coming to the last bit, that is interventions on the farmlands. So the interventions on the farmlands are done under several categories. Like for example, you can construct a bund across your boundaries, and you can also dig the trenches. And there are several other ways in which you can store the water in the farmlands. I'll explain in detail when we'll go to the interventions on the farmland. Okay. In water harvesting structures, there are three categories. One is about deepening and repair of traditional water harvesting structure. If there are already existing lakes, ponds, we could try to make the kind of rehabilitation that is required in order to restore that entire existing water structure. Then we can go for construction of earthen dams. Basically, earthen dams are also called as percolation tanks, because the importance that is given for earthen dam is to recharge the groundwater rather than storing more water on the surface. But as we know, the earthen dam can process both the objectives. So that's why earthen dams are also called as percolation tanks. Okay. Anyway, we'll again go for dugout farm ponds, the ponds that are constructed in the farm. Okay. These are water harvesting structures. So these are the different ways or techniques in which we can manage our catchment area. Thank you.